Your film asks some mighty big questions, so I'm just gonna toss the ball into your court as one of the creators. How did crafting a film like this possibly reshape your perspective of humanity and maybe your own humanity? Has its themes changed the trajectory of your life, or were you on this deep thinking path for some time?
I totally was, and I think I will probably never stop. It's just not that the film really changed anything. I mean, it changed, I mean, life circumstances, and it changed, like, your experiences, but not really the worldviews, because I mean, here, uh, I mean, first of all, like in film, you can present your own worldviews, so that is out there. And yeah, I wouldn't say, because, like, of course you have a lot of conversations on the way with your screenwriters and with production and also the actors, but I think we all came from a very from the very same place too, so yeah, we just made what we really wanted to say, so
Sure,
I
sure.
think.
It's difficult for me to kind of walk around some of the complex thoughts here, especially in the final 20 minutes or so, where you may feel as an audience member backed into different corners or the same ones as different characters. Was it tricky to navigate these thoughts amid such a gorgeous spectacle genre film?
I mean, because it's very easy if you don't have also the money for a lot
Sure.
more, action sequences. So you have like the 3 or 4 that we had, and they were very well planned, and we had to work it all around that. So it was more the other way around. So we had to fill this. So therefore, it was more finding a balance about, like, how crazy and intense these worldviews are, so that you don't start to lose people as for as audience, because, like, if they might be too extreme, then they start getting not, yeah, being liked anymore, or being easily followed anymore. So yeah, it was really just finding a balance on these 3 characters, and that was also a lot of work. You need a lot of scenes for this as well. So
Mhm.
actually, yeah, that was easier than, to say, like, we have so much plot.
Right.
Where do we put all the character stuff?
Yeah. So I'll flip it on the other, put it on the other foot. How was it trying to make these quiet moments feel like they had so much movement? Because that was one of the things that occurred to me right away, is how much movement you bring to the stillness. There's a lot of physical movement in the beginning, but then you pump the brakes and put the flesh on these characters. And I feel like the camera does such a great job of making the calm feel just as fluid as the moments with anxiety.
Yeah, but I think a lot comes from, the inner work of the from actors,
Sure.
and like the conflict that you have built up, that then, reflects in these slow moments. For example, if you set up Hannah and with this pregnancy, and then you have like this moment after Vesta exploded, and you're complete, and there is like this emptiness, and there's no way out situation. There's so much vibrating underneath the surface, that I think, yeah, there's so much also for the audience to think about and feel about, so that it's not a problem if there are moments where not much happens. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Sure, sure. Can you give me a little insight into like what those conversations may have been like with your cinematographer? To, as you said, like a lot
Mhm.
hangs on your actors and what they convey emotionally, but the camera also does a really good job of kind of reflecting that behavior.
Totally. And my 2 cinematographers, they had like so high standards, and like we went through every scene, and every scene had to have, like, a goal or an aim or something. What is this scene really about? That was actually, we went through all the 124 scenes and asked this question for every scene.
Mm,
And just by talking about that, you find out so much more yourself as a director, because you have this vague idea, but then if you have to verbalize it, and also put it then into a picture, and like then you have 3 people who also come from different worlds, and try to make this one thing, to translate it into a 2D image, there's just magic that happens right there. So yeah, it was, I can't just stress enough how important like preparation is. And we spent so much time together, me, the cinematographer, and the production designer, so that it all felt like this one thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, did coming up with the transitional points, and I'll explain what I mean by this. Like for instance, you'll cut away from a scene that may have a certain type of emotion. It could be very intense, or it could, and you need something to kind of cut to in the next scene. And sometimes it may be a shot toward the top, the interior, the ceiling, and you'll pan down, and it kind of perfectly punctuates what it may have been happening in the previous scene. Was all of that planned out, or did you just kind of, like you said, have those conversations on set with your cinematographers?
No, there was no time for on-set discussions. And I also said to everybody, like, there's no fixing in the post, there is no, like, we decide on set, all these technical stuff that had to be done before. So every day my cinematographers and I, we had like, because like we have also done like, you know, it's not storyboarding, but we have like this view from upside, you know, and we also had like the blueprint of the set, so that also we knew exactly with this lens what would be inside and stuff. So we were so prepared. Also, I also had it like in a 3D version, so I then also made like a virtual storyboard, and the three of us, we knew exactly what was happening at every moment, so that afterwards we could give this freedom to the actors. So we had long phases of, you know, rehearsing too, and things could change. Then we could react pretty well because everybody knew what was actually the actual plan. So it made like the conversation super quick, super fast, and we were always on the same track, the three of us. It was amazing. I would never want to work with somebody else because there was such a cool kind of way to work.
Mm-hmm. What about since you're exploring solitude and loneliness here, did your actors have to constantly plug into your faith to steer them? Like you may have been mentioning, like did they have to watch like the playback monitors to feel like
No.
they were?
No, I don't want that actually. They are not allowed to to look at themselves. I don't know whether this is an Austrian film school thing, but you're never showing material to your actors except if they really ask for it, or if you have to tell them, yeah, look, if you run there, it looks like this, so please, I show you on how it would look, stuff like this. But I never do that because, you know, I think for everybody, you know, vanity would then kick in, and then you start observing yourself, and that's what you shouldn't do. So about solitude and all this thing, I mean, we had no problems in creating that because we were shooting during COVID. We were the first shooting in Austria at that time, and everything was so crazy. We all felt like trapped in the studio for 2 months, and like also the actors were not sure whether they could bring their families. For example, for Mark, it didn't work, although it was planned, so he missed them for 2 weeks, for 2 months, and he really, you know, wanted to bring them over. And for George, it did work, but it was super stressy because he just got father 3 days before coming to our set, so he also missed his newborn son so much. And you know, there was nothing I had to create. It was really just there.
Did you give them any like alternative sources to plug into, whether it was, you know, other films that may have been like Sunshine, Alien, or High Life, or music, or anything that kind of conveyed that tone a little bit to them?
No, I'm also not the biggest fan. And like, I mean, I think, you know, as you want your thing to be your own thing, I didn't want to be too influenced. I mean, to a certain point, but not too much. But what I did, I gave every of them a very long and detailed backstory that only I created. It was not even created with me and my screenwriter, my co-writer. It was really just between me and that person, and they also didn't tell this each other, so that everybody had a rich life and a rich, you know, backstory and past. And it was up to the others to explore that or find out. So yeah, that you had like real riddles that had to be solved on set.
Sure.
Mm.
What about in the production design and how detailed it is? Like even a still shot will have a computer monitor or something, like there's like this little yellow snake-like effect that's happening on a monitor that just it's my eyes kind of just drift to that just because I'm a meticulous film watcher, but just kind of going through all the details to make this feel as grounded as possible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I had to be involved in everything because, we didn't have enough budget, so everything had to be on point. There was no space for second chances. So therefore, I mean, everybody stepped in at different times of the project, but at the moment the monitor guy came in, we also required from him to have like an entire vision for this whole program of the station, and we were working so closely together. So I also spent a lot of time with him and my production designer and also the cinematographers, because they
Mm,
also had a big saying. They said like, hey, can't see that your design is beautiful, but you have to, scale it up or something. So um, there was also a lot of preparation. And the moment you do that, there happen so many tiny little creative things, that are so much fun. I wouldn't want to miss that out, actually.
right.
So as a director, it's the best thing to, work a lot in advance.
What about in terms of trying, because this is also like a procedural film, like a lot of like its process, we get to see like how they do things and just what their problem solving skills are. Did you work with consultants or did this entirely
Mhm.
rely on your
No, no, a lot
research?
of Yeah, no. We had consultants for the electrical stuff. I mean, yeah, we brought scientists from technical university
Mm,
that helped us on the way. We had an algae scientist all
mm,
time on set when we were shooting in the lab, because that is the best thing. We have like this real algae factory that actually looks like the stuff that we have in the set,
mhm.
very close to Vienna. So we not only went there for research, but we asked them to help us on set. So yeah, all that was really well thought through. And also like for fight scenes and for like these soldier grips and stuff, we also had a soldier there who also made a choreography with us and who had a big saying in the shots that we were taking, because like if he said like this is not looking realistic, then we had to do it again, and he showed it.
Mm.
Yeah.
S- as a film watcher yourself, do you like, are you a meticulous film watcher? Do you like to know how things are done, or do you prefer like how you would probably want your audience to watch this film, maybe to get more swept up in the story, not think about, oh man, how did they actually achieve that shot and things like that.
My way is to not get too influenced by stuff, because I tend to remember crazily good. Also, I it was also like for example the script. Everybody's saying, okay, we need to read the whole thing again, so to really get into the feels. I couldn't, because I remembered everything so detailed. That's also a problem. Like once I see a film, I know everything about it, like even years later. So
Mm,
I needed to get a little bit distance from that. And yeah, and I don't want this film, I mean, it's cool if there are some homages or something, but I want it to be my own.
mhm.
And if we would come up with same ideas like others, okay, then so be it. And if not, then I could say this is really 100% me and the people that are working on it. And most of the time we didn't have like big I mean, nobody came in and said, yeah, this film did this and this film did that. No, maybe a little bit for the camera lenses or something, but never shot wise, because that was really like we said, what do we want with this scene and how do we achieve it? So that was our approach.
Yeah. And I'll cut you loose on this. Would you continue this story because it's certainly rich enough to explore further, or do you like the idea of the audience's wonder in the sequels that we may create in our heads?
I wouldn't do a sequel. I would do a prequel, if anything,
Mm.
because I think Gavin's backstory was so cool, and we had to edit out a lot, and the audience has to make up a lot of it by their own, because so many dialogues have been edited out because it would have taken too much pace out of the movie. So with him, we worked a little bit more with this riddle that you also have to unveil.
Mhm.
But actually, what we had for his backstory was so cool. So George and I are still talking about, like, should we do like a prequel if we have the money? Should we do that? And how he meets Hannah the first time and stuff. That would be really cool. But
Yeah.
it would be very costly movie, so I don't know.
Sure.
That would
Yeah. Well,
would
I
be-
hope you do it.
Thanks.
You're not gonna dodge it! Hannah! No!